The penultimate round of NASCAR's playoffs has begun, and it's pretty much a mystery to all of us who's actually going to make it to the Final Four. So today, that's what I'm going to try and help you to do. We're going to look at the drivers and how they do at these tracks. We're going to look at some of the previous trends as well as how they do at the track types we're going to. So let's just jump right on into it. First off, we got Chase Elliott as the first seed. Currently, he's plus 31 up, which is a pretty good buffer compared to everybody else. And when you look at his last 5 races at these 3 tracks, well, it's honestly a mixed bag. At Las Vegas, he has only 2 top 10s in the last 5 races, but in each successive race of the last 5, he leads less and less laps. At Homestead, he only has 3 top 10s, though 2 of those are top 5s, and he's led laps in the last 2 races there. And at Martinsville, well, he's pretty damn good for the most part. When you look at his last 5 races at Martinsville, there are 3 races where he leads over or just about 200 laps. And 2 of those were the last 2, with 185 coming in the spring here, and then 289 coming last fall. Though Elliott is not as jazzed about going to any of these tracks. When asked about which ones fit his driving style, he said, "We sucked at Vegas in the spring, sucked at Homestead last year, and we can't pass at Martinsville." So not very good omens for fans of the number 9 driver. The second seed coming in is that of Joey Logano, who's plus 11 over the cut line at the moment. And the last 5 races for Logano at each of these tracks is, like Elliott, a mixed bag. At Las Vegas, he doesn't have a top 10 in the last 2 starts, and he really doesn't lead too many laps outside of his 2020 win there. At Homestead, his last 2 finishes are 25th and 27th, and while he led laps, it's not going to mean much if he can't run up front. Though Martinsville is the place to be if you're a fan of Joey Logano. In his last 5 races there, his worst finish is 10th. And while he didn't lead tons of laps in the last 4 races, he did lead 234 laps in the 2020 spring race. And his last 5 finishes are as follows: 2nd in the spring, 10th and 6th in 2021, and 3rd and 4th in 2020. Suffice to say, the driver of the 22 will be a threat at Martinsville, and if he's anywhere near the cut line going into that race, he's probably going to make the Final Four. In a great amount of exceeding expectations, Ross Chastain enters the round of 8 plus 6 above the cut line as seed number 3. Now, Chastain's competitive career is very brief, so a lot of these numbers aren't really comparable. For instance, in 2021, in the Ganassi 42 car, he finished 23rd in both races at Las Vegas, 17th at Homestead, 27th at Martinsville, and 17th in the first Martinsville race. Those aren't very comparable. But what is comparable is 2022. And in 2022, he got a 3rd place run at Las Vegas with 83 laps led, and he finished 5th at Martinsville in the spring. And it seems like Chastain has really been turning it on as of late, so I wouldn't be surprised if he actually goes out and wins one of these 3 races coming. The final man that is in the playoffs at the moment when it comes to above the cut line is Christopher Bell, the winner of the Roval. And Bell is someone who's very challenging when it comes to looking back at his career due to the fact that he has been a young driver improving. He finished 10th in the spring at Las Vegas and 20th at Martinsville, which was not very good. But when you look at his career at Las Vegas, you'll notice that he has run well and up front in those races. He finished 8th at Homestead in 2020, and at Martinsville, he did get a 7th place finish in the spring of 2021. While Bell isn't somebody at the moment who you can look back on in history and say he'll do well in this round, he's somebody who has improved vastly in the playoffs, and he should not be overlooked. Now, the 5th seed is William Byron, and currently he's only 3 points out. But that might not be very much to make up, honestly, because when you look at his last race at each of the tracks we're going to, it is a really good track record. In the spring, he finished 5th at Las Vegas after leading 8 laps, and that isn't his only top 10 there, and he's led laps in the last 4 Las Vegas races. When you look at Homestead, for instance, he has 2 top 10s in his last 2 starts there, including his last start there in 2021 where he got a win with 102 laps led. And Martinsville, well, he has a streak right now of 3 straight top 5s, and the last race at Martinsville, he won, leading 212 laps. Right now, Byron is somebody who is getting hot when it matters, and these are 3 good tracks for him this round. At number 6 is Ryan Blaney, the most impressive winless driver of 2022, and he also is 3 points out. When you look at Blaney and these tracks that we're going to, you can see a lot of good from them. While he finished 36th this past spring at Las Vegas, that was right after having 3 straight top 10s, including 2 straight top 5 finishes and 5th in each race. At Homestead, he led 70 laps in 2020 to a 3rd place run, though finished 29th in 2021. And at Martinsville, he hasn't finished lower than 11th in his last 5, including 2 second-place runs in 2020, leading 157 laps in 2021, and in 2022, finishing 4th. Blaney's going to be somebody who challenges big time when it comes to a Final Four berth. In 7th is the winningest active driver to not have a championship at the moment, Denny Hamlin, who is 5 points out at the moment. Now, Denny Hamlin is somebody else who the next gen has kind of thrown for a loop. He was honestly really terrible early in the year, so it's not necessarily that big of a comparison to look at when you look at just how he did earlier this season. He finished 32nd at Las Vegas after a mistake on his own with shifting, but he led 31 laps in that race and looked really on track to compete for a win and at least get a top 5. And that fits what he's done in the 3 races before that. In 2021, he had a win with 137 laps led. He led 47 laps in the spring in a 4th place run and 121 laps in 2020's playoff race with a 3rd place run. At Homestead, his 11th place finish last year was the follow-up to a win with 137 laps led, so not bad there. But the big problem is actually a track that we all thought he'd be really good at, his home track, Martinsville Speedway. While he finished 3rd there in 2021 spring race with 276 laps led, that is his only top 10 in the last 5 races, and his last 2 finishes there are 28th, where he struggled mightily in the spring, and 24th after competing for a win last fall. If Hamlin is going to capitalize on other drivers' mistakes, he cannot have any of his characteristic championship choking ones. Now the final man in the 8th seed, being 9 points out of the playoffs at the moment, is Chase Briscoe. Briscoe has a very small sample size, and while he's turned it up as of late, that isn't really much of a good omen per se when it comes to the next round, as it's been a very finicky playoff. When you look at his finishes at Las Vegas, it's not inspiring. 14th is his career best, and he finished 35th there in the spring, granted not completely his fault. His only start at Homestead was an 18th place run, though the good here is that at Martinsville in the spring, he got one of his few top 10s on the year with a 9th place run. He's going to need to survive the mile and a halfs, stop or at least control the bleeding as much as possible, and then hope that he can capitalize on others' mistakes and misfortune at Martinsville. Now from here, I'm going to put up some statistics on the screen. Starting out with the mile and a half races you can compare to Las Vegas and Homestead that have been run this year in 2022, and the stage points that go along with it. Ross Chastain has scored the most points on mile and a half this year with 216. The next closest is Denny Hamlin, and then there's a real scrum between Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney from 3rd to 6th. These drivers all pretty much scoring around the same. The real oddity here is that Chase Elliott has been the worst of these 8 on the mile and a halfs this year. What's even more odd is that outside of Ross Chastain's 76 stage points, he scores the most with 49. So that's going to be something to look at, is if Elliott can close out these races. Because if he has 2 bad races, say the way that Kevin Harvick did in 2020, we very well may be looking at the guy with the best season running for a 5th place points finish. And then you have, of course, the 4 short track races run this season. On the short tracks this year, William Byron scores the most points with 173, and then it's a real scrum for different positions. Tied for 2nd is Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott with 157. Tied for 4th, Ryan Blaney and Ross Chastain with 135. 131 goes to Logano and 127 to Hamlin. Chase Briscoe, honestly, not surprisingly, is the lowest by a pretty wide margin, scoring only 108 points on the 4 short track races. When it comes to stage points, Christopher Bell gets the most with 41, followed very closely by guys like Elliott with 40, Byron with 39, Blaney with 38, and 35 apiece going to Chastain and Logano. The 2 stragglers on this, Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe. For these reasons, Briscoe, Elliott, Hamlin, and maybe the 2 Penske guys honestly look to be the guys in maybe the worst shape when it comes to how they've run so far this season. Now, to finish off today, I'm going to go Larry Mack on y'all and give you some trends about the round of 8. Starting off, the number 2 and 3 seeds have made the Final Four every season since this system was implemented in 2017. That would be Joey Logano and Ross Chastain under this year's bracket going into the round. The number 1 seed has made it every year but 2020, with the Kevin Harvick collapse being the only year. So, Elliott fans, I gotta say, you must be feeling pretty good based on history at least. The number 6 and 8 seeds have never made the Final Four every year since 2017. So, sorry to you Blaney and Briscoe fans. The number 5 seed is 3 for 5 since 2017 and making the Final Four. The 5th seed this year is William Byron. The number 4 and number 7 seeds have made the Final Four once since 2017. 4th right now is Bell. 7th going into the round would be Hamlin. Of the 3 races in the round of 8, at least 2 have been won by playoff-eligible drivers at that point of the season since 2017. 2 of the 5 years, the round has been swept by playoff drivers. 2 years saw 3 drivers qualify by a win, 2 years saw 2 drivers qualify, and last year, Larson was the only driver in the playoffs to qualify for the Final Four with a victory, even though he won twice. So with that, I'm going to pass this all on to you. Who do you think makes it to the Final Four after the next 3 weeks? For me, my money is on Bell, Elliott, Logano, and the 4th one is up in the air. But you know what? I'll go Ross Chastain. Now, with that, let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continuous support, and until next time, have a good one.